Well, welcome back, Merc Nation, to the Merc Method. I want to just thank everyone for coming and listening to the podcast episode today. It is Mental Health Month. I feel like this is going to be one of those important episodes. I see that choosing yourself is something that is going around all the social medias, and it's perfect for Mental Health Month or just any month, to be honest. So I wanted to write a podcast episode about it. Also want to thank everybody for going and listening to the Mother's Day episode. It's climbing on the charts for the highest episode to date, but we need to push it a little bit more because I think it's important. Because mothers are important in our lives, and they make such a great difference. So before I get into the meat and potatoes of this episode, I want to say something to you that maybe you haven't heard lately. I know I try to push this to everyone because it does mean something. That's that you matter. And not because of what you produce, not because of how much you give to everybody, not because of how available you are to everyone else but yourself, not because of your job title, your relationship status, your parenting skills, your achievements that you have, or how quote unquote put together you seem. You matter because you're a human being. And since this is Mental Health Awareness Month, I wanted to have a real conversation, not a perfect conversation, not one filled with buzzwords or toxic positivity, just something really honest. Because this really means a lot to me, and I hope it means a lot to you. And I know for some people, even hearing that phrase feels kind of uncomfortable. And the reason that that feels uncomfortable is because somewhere along the way, somebody taught us that choosing ourselves is selfish. When we did choose ourselves, maybe we got yelled at or it was flipped a different way. So we took that, ingrained that in ourselves that choosing ourselves was not the right choice. We were taught to overextend, to say yes when we mean no. We were taught to prioritize everyone else's comfort level over our own well being. It's stuck in us. Tend to wear burnout like it's a badge of honor to show everybody that we just keep moving forward without stopping, to keep proving to ourselves and to other people that we can do it without rest, to keep sacrificing our own well being for other people. But the problem with that is you wake up one day emotionally exhausted and just a mentally drained self, disconnected from yourself and wondering why you feel so empty. That stuff might hit you in the car after work. It might hit you before work. And you don't know why because you've been going on autopilot for so long and now it caught up to you. That's what I want to talk about today. Not from a place of judgment or a place of pretending that life is easy. We all know that life isn't easy, right? I guarantee you all of us know that. But it's from a place of understanding because choosing yourself can be really, really hard, especially in this world that constantly demands more from you. Do this, do this, do this for somebody else. Okay, then do this for somebody else. And there's no break for you. Be more productive, be more available, be more perfect, more hustle, more sacrifice. Just go, go, go all the time. But if you're someone who is consistently carrying other people emotionally, constantly showing up for everyone, constantly being that strong one, this episode is especially for you. I want this to feel like a conversation between two people sitting across from each other. I'm talking to you. It's you and me. Maybe you're driving. Maybe you're cleaning your house. Maybe you're sitting on the patio with your cup of coffee. However, you're listening to this episode, I'm really glad that you're here. It's you and me, no one else. I'm talking to you. And for the rest of this episode, I'm glad that you're here wherever you are listening. It's you and me. I want you to just breathe a little bit easier as we're talking. You do not have to earn your rest. You do not have to earn your care. You do not have to destroy yourself to prove your worth. I say it a lot of times in my videos. You are worth everything. You have purpose. You have meaning. So let's talk about it. What does it actually mean to choose yourself? Why is it so difficult to do that? Why is it necessary for your mental health? And how do we start doing it without guilt? That's such a big key to this. People feel guilty for choosing themselves. Okay, well, let's talk about it. I really struggled with my mental health for a very long time, and it was because I didn't choose myself. I always like to help other people. Obviously, doing this podcast and writing the book and advocating for mental health, I knew that it was important. And I've seen this line a lot of times in different social medias that I became the person that I needed at that time. That's very, very true. And I just started to choose myself. And it is still hard. And I still feel that guilt because I almost feel like people take it the wrong way when I'm choosing myself over others. But reality, I'm not, because if I'm choosing myself, then I'm choosing my mental health, which will then help other people with theirs. That's how I look at it. And I think one of the biggest reasons people struggle to choose themselves is because most of us were never taught how. Like, seriously. Think about it. A lot of people grew up learning how to survive, but not necessarily how to care for themselves emotionally. I mean, back when I was younger, not that I'm ancient, but mental health and, you know, advocating for yourself and sharing that with others was really not a thing. So you kind of just shoved it on your shelf and let it sit there and collect dust. And now it's coming out as all of our 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s now are really feeling it. So I'm trying to get ahead of that for everybody, or trying to allow them to understand how to go about it starting now. We have to start somewhere. Some people grew up in households where emotions were ignored, unfortunately. You know, some people grew up feeling responsible for everyone else's feelings. Some people learn that love came from being helpful and useful and quiet, maybe successful or agreeable. Those are a lot of my problems. I usually try to be helpful and useful and agreeable. So then you become an adult, right? And suddenly your entire identity is built around what you do for other people. You become the dependable one, the fixer, as I've been called, the peacemaker, the strong friend, that one everybody calls. And while that may sound admirable on the surface, it feels good. It feels good for people to call you and want you to help with things and fix things. But you start to think of, like, who's taking care of me? A lot of people are drowning quietly. And what makes it harder is that society often rewards that burnout. People praise overworking. People praise exhaustion. People praise being constantly busy. But rarely do people celebrate boundaries. Rarely do people applaud that rest that you should take, that most people do not. Working with a lot of mental health advocates and nurses and social workers, I don't feel like they ever take a break. Ever. You know what? I'm very proud of you for taking care of your mental health. I really want to make that clear. I'm extremely proud of you for at least attempting to think about taking care of your mental health, because it has to start somewhere. And honestly, we need more of that, because burnout doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes burnout looks like, feeling emotionally numb, snapping at people you love, losing motivation for things that you used to want to do. constant fatigue, anxiety that never turns off, crying unexpectedly, feeling disconnected from yourself, and really struggling to enjoy anything that you used to do. You start to get annoyed with people and becoming really irritable all the time. And also with that comes overthinking of like everything if you're not already doing that. But here's something really important, okay? Just because you've learned to function while overwhelmed does not mean you're okay. I think a lot of people needed to hear this. I think you need to hear this. You've normalized surviving, but surviving and living are not the same thing. And sometimes choosing yourself starts with simply admitting that you're tired, that you're overwhelmed, that you need help. That takes courage. It's not weakness. We can all use that boost, but we have to be honest with ourselves and throw in the white flag and go, all right, I need some support. It's okay, especially if you're used to minimizing your pain. You know what's really heartbreaking to me? So many people know how to show compassion to everyone else except themselves. Guilty. One of those people. I'm working on it. You'll comfort your friends. You'll encourage your family members. You'll tell someone else to rest. You'll tell strangers to rest. You'll remind other people they deserve grace. Oh, that's a line I use all the time, but it's true. You need to give yourself some grace. There's so many things going on in your life. Slow down. But when it comes to you, you are so quick to criticize yourself. You push yourself harder. Sometimes you even call yourself weak for struggling. I know you do. But I really want you to listen to this. You are allowed to be human. You are allowed to feel overwhelmed. You are allowed to need help. You are allowed to pause. And you are allowed to choose yourself because you are important. Say it to yourself. Say it out loud. Wherever you're sitting right now, tell yourself that you are important and that you matter. Not because life is easy, but because your mental health matters. So I want to talk a little bit about self-abandonment in this episode, okay? Because I think a lot of people do this without even realizing it. There's a lot of things we do that we don't realize, but this is one of them. Because self-abandonment happens when you constantly ignore your own needs, which happens all the time, whether that's your emotions, your boundaries, which is bad, and well-being in order to maintain the relationship you have. And you're trying to meet expectations and avoid conflict, which is one thing that's huge for everyone. No one likes conflict, so they tap out. But over time, it takes a serious emotional toll on you. Maybe you constantly say yes when you really want to say no. Does that sound familiar to you? Because you don't want the conflict, so you say yes instead. You talk yourself out of the no. Maybe you stay in relationships that drain you. Does that sound familiar? Maybe you ignore your stress until your body forces you to stop. Guilty. Ended up in the hospital because I forgot to choose me. Maybe you never speak about what hurts you. Maybe you convince yourself your needs are too much. Stop. That's self abandonment. And I think one of the saddest things is now how normalized it has become. People will literally run themselves into the ground trying to be everything for everyone. Meanwhile, internally, you're falling apart. If that's you, I'm talking to right now. I want you to know something, okay? You're not failing because you're struggling. You're exhausted. You're exhausted because you've been carrying too much for too long. You have bags on your shelf that are not yours to carry. There's a difference. Sometimes people think choosing themselves means becoming selfish or uncaring, but healthy self care is not selfish. One of the famous phrases that I use all the time: you cannot continuously pour from an empty cup. You can't do it. A lot of times when I'm talking with mothers, I call that mom power, but at sometimes it's going to run out and you're going to get tired and you're going to get burnt out. At some point, constantly neglecting your mental health catches up with you. Your body's going to notice, your nervous system's going to notice, your emotions are going to notice, you're going to cry at everything. Your stress is going to build, your anxiety is going to get worse, resentment's going to build, and eventually you may find yourself feeling disconnected from your own identity. You lose yourself in this. You don't even know what you need anymore because you've spent so much time focusing on everyone else. You don't know who you are. I think a lot of our listeners, and I'm talking to you, may relate to that. You get so used to being needed that you forget how to check in with yourself. You want to feel that need. I want you to ask yourself something, okay? When was the last time you honestly checked in with yourself emotionally? Not your responsibilities, not your to do list, not your obligations. You. I'm talking about you. When was the last time you asked yourself, how am I really doing? Not the automatic answer, not the socially accepted answer. I want the real answer because mental health isn't just about crisis, it's also about emotional maintenance. And I think we need to normalize emotionally checking in with ourselves before people completely break down, before you break down. Don't let it get to that point. You deserve better than that. And we're trying to get ahead of it. And then one of the things that I like to tell you, give yourself some grace. You got to start somewhere, right? But it's important. So many people wait until they're burned out before taking care of themselves seriously. But choosing yourself can look like little small things too, like taking a break without guilt, a small break so you don't feel as guilty. Trying to say no to something that actually does drain you, that you know will drain you when you're done with it. Trying to get some good sleep, trying to go to therapy, asking for support, turning your phone off and taking a walk. Journaling is one of the things that I always tell people to do. Setting boundaries, spending time alone, allowing yourself the joy that you deserve. Something healing starts in very small moments, and those small moments really do matter. On the topic that I brought up earlier that I used to have a huge problem with, and I'm getting better about, but also people talk about it constantly, is guilt when you choose yourself. Because guilt is one of the biggest reasons people avoid prioritizing themselves. They'd rather just fight through it instead of sitting with that guilt. A lot of people feel guilty resting or saying no or setting your boundaries or taking your space. And honestly, that guilt usually comes from conditioning, especially if you grew up believing your worth was connected on how much you did. If you just went go, 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 and then everybody's like, good for you, and you got clapping in the background, then you wired your brain that way. If your identity became tied to that stuff about being helpful and dependable and accommodating all the time, then choosing yourself can feel wrong. But feeling guilty does not mean you're doing something bad. I really need people to hear that. It's not bad. Sometimes that guilt is simply the discomfort of just doing something different that you've never done before. And healing often feels unfamiliar before it really feels freeing. There are people listening right now to this that have been exhausted because they've spent years trying not to disappoint other people. And somewhere along the way, they completely disappeared from their own lives. It's pretty painful to think about. And I also think social media has intensified this pressure just a little bit. We're constantly exposed to a productivity culture. Everybody's grinding, everybody's building. I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. Everybody's posting their achievements. Everybody's acting like rest is weakness. I gotta go, go, go. And if you're already struggling mentally, that comparison can become really emotionally crushing for you. Comparison is so hard, especially with social media. Everyone's posting their achievements, no one's posting the struggles behind it. I call it the highlight reel. You start feeling behind, not good enough, lazy, unsuccessful, but it's your life. How can you be behind? It's no one else's. Meanwhile, you're fighting all these battles internally with yourself that nobody else can see because you're not telling anybody, right? You're keeping it to yourself. All this anxiety, all this depression, burnout, loneliness, you're just emotionally exhausted. And I think we need to normalize the reality that healing is not linear. Some days you feel strong, some days you feel motivated, some days you feel hopeful. And truthfully, some days you barely have enough energy to get through the day or get out of bed. That does not mean you are weak. That makes you human. And I think people also need to understand that choosing yourself doesn't always mean making dramatic changes overnight. That doesn't work that way. It's a process, not a race. It's gradual. Sometimes it looks like choosing yourself, saying to yourself, I'm no longer ignoring my anxiety. I'm going to stop apologizing for needing rest. I'm going to stop shrinking myself to make other people feel comfortable. And if you spent most of your life surviving, that is incredibly brave to do that. But you have to start somewhere. And I know some people listening may feel emotionally tired in a way that can't fully explain. And maybe nobody around you realizes how much you're carrying. But I want to tell you, all of your feelings are valid. And you do not need permission to prioritize your well being, ever. You do not need to hit rock bottom first before taking care of yourself. Seriously, you don't have to drive yourself into the ground. You deserve care right now, not later, not after you finish everything, not after you prove yourself to whoever, right now. This is a good time to take a pause, okay? Because if you're listening to this, there's a good chance something in this conversation so far has hit home with you. Maybe it's the feeling of being overwhelmed or you silently struggling. Maybe you've been carrying that emotional weight that nobody sees because you don't share it. And again, I want you to know you're not alone. I know sometimes people feel pressure to always appear okay, especially in this world now where everyone is posting their highlight reels. But I know behind closed doors, so many people are dealing with that stress, that anxiety, that grief, that exhaustion, the depression, the burnout. And if that's where you are right now, and I'm talking to you listening, I see you. I always see you. You are not dramatic for feeling overwhelmed. You are not weak for needing the support that you deserve. You are not lazy because you're exhausted. Mental health struggles are real, and healing takes time. Please stop punishing yourself for being a human being. I think one of the most powerful things we can do during Mental Health Month awareness is create more honest conversations with ourselves and with others. Not performative conversations, not surface level conversations, real, actual conversations the kind where people can admit that they're not okay, that they're burnt out, that they need help, that they need rest. Because vulnerability is not weakness. Sometimes that vulnerability is the beginning of your healing process. And if nobody has told you, I'm proud of you for continuing to keep going. Seriously, I know life can feel heavy, but you are still here, and that truly matters. All right, so let's get practical for a second and come up with some ways to begin to choose yourself starting today. And one of those ideas is to start listening to your body. Body often tells you what your mind tries to ignore. Chronic exhaustion, headaches, trouble sleeping, anxiety that never shuts off. These are all signals. These are all red flags. Your body is not trying to betray you, it's trying to communicate with you. Try asking, what is my body trying to tell me? Maybe you need rest. Maybe you need to set some boundaries. Maybe you need some support. Maybe it's time to pump the brakes a little bit and slow down. Another one is trying to learn to say no. Huge problem. I like to say yes. This one is hard for a lot of people, especially people who fear disappointing other people. You are allowed to protect your energy, right? You don't need to explain every boundary. You just say no. Is a no is a complete sentence, and the people who truly care about you will get it. Let's try to stop treating rest like a reward, okay? Rest is not something you earn after getting exhausted. I think a lot of people only allow themselves to rest when they're completely burnt out. But imagine if you just normalized rest before you just collapse. You deserve moments of peace too, don't you? If you need it, I want you to ask for help. There really truly is strength in asking for support, whether it's therapy, whether that's talking to a friend, whether that's opening to somebody in your family, maybe going to a supporting group. You do not have to carry everything alone, but isolation often intensifies your emotional pain. That's why the connection really matters with somebody. Find somebody that you trust that you want to listen to. One of the things that I've learned in this process is spending time getting to know myself is so important. A lot of people have spent so much time surviving that they no longer know themselves outside of the stress levels that they have. Ask yourself what brings you peace? What makes you feel alive? What's draining you? What fills up your cup? What kind of life do you really want? You only get one. Well, how do you want to do it? You deserve a relationship with yourself too. And try not to compare yourself to other people because that's a really big problem, especially online. People are usually making those highlight reels and they're not really full realities. You're comparing your struggles to someone's highlight reel that you see on social media and TikTok and Instagram. That's not really fair to you, right? You have your own timeline. Give yourself that compassion. Talk to yourself in the way that you would speak to someone you love, not with constant criticism, not with cruelty. You are doing the best you can with what you are carrying, and that deserves the compassion. I just want you to remember this, okay? Choosing yourself is not abandoning other people. It's finally deciding that you actually matter, which you do. You always mattered. Your mental health matters. Your peace matters. Your emotional well being matters. And I know this world moves fast. I have two kids. I get it. I know life can be overwhelming. I know responsibilities pile up all the time. I know some days survival alone feels exhausting, but please do not disappear from your own life while trying to take care of everyone else's. You deserve moments of peace and rest and healing. You deserve those boundaries and your joy and your happiness. If you're listening to this while going through a difficult season emotionally, I truly hope you remember this, okay? You are not behind. You are not failing. You are not broken. And you are definitely not alone. Healing is not always loud. Sometimes it looks like getting out of bed. Sometimes it looks like asking for help or saying no. Sometimes it's just resting. And sometimes it finally looks like choosing yourself. And if that's the step you take after listening to this episode, even in a small way, I am so proud of you. I really just want to thank you for spending this time with me as always. If this episode hit home with you, share it to whoever you think is going to benefit from it. And more than anything, please remember to check in with yourself, not just during Mental Health Awareness Month, but all year long. Make sure you take care of your mind, take care of your heart, and take care of yourself because you deserve that. And as always, at the end of my episodes, I leave you, but I leave you with this. Stay grounded, stay kind to yourself, and remember, strength begins with honesty. Until next time.